Welcome to Gospel Truth with Andrew Womack, a teaching ministry that focuses on God's unconditional love and grace. And now, here's Andrew.
Welcome to our Monday's broadcast of the Gospel Truth. Today I am beginning a brand new series, and I think that this is going to be one of the most practical and helpful things that I have ever taught on TV. And I tell you, this is going to make a radical difference in your life. Before I tell you what the teaching is about, let me just say that many of you aren't going to like this. And many of you are going to think, oh, this is for somebody else and not for me. But I tell you, any person who would respond that way is the very person who needs this teaching. What I'm going to be talking about is self-centeredness, the source of all grief. And I know that that doesn't bless some of you, and some of you think, oh, that's not so. But I'm going to be sharing things with you from Scripture that are going to literally astound you. And this has become actually one of the most foundational things that God has ever spoken to me. Let me also say this, that I heard a man teach about selfishness, self-centeredness one time, and he said that he dealt with himself 20 years ago or whatever it was, and that he was totally dead to himself, and that he had no flesh left, that he was totally under control. And the moment I heard that, I just wrote Ichabod over that guy's head. In the Bible, that means the glory has departed. Any person who thinks that they've conquered self has been conquered by self, because you don't ever completely get rid of self. The only way that you can totally be delivered of self is to die and go to be with the Lord. And then you aren't going to have all of this self-centeredness. We'll know all things even as also we are known, and everything will change. But as long as you are in this physical body, you are going to have to deal with self. And it never gets totally conquered. It's just something that you have to deal with. I've had people come up to me before and ask if I could cast self out of them, self-centeredness out of them. And I said, well, if I had a gun, I could end your self-centeredness, just send you to be with Jesus, but that's the only way you're going to deal with it. You have to just deal with it and manage it. And so it doesn't matter if this is something that the Lord has spoken to you many times or 20 years, 30 years ago, you are still having to deal with all of your self-centeredness, and this is going to be an astounding truth to you, but really your self-centeredness is the source of all of your grief. Now I know that the average person does not agree with that when I just make this statement, and we think, oh, that you don't understand. It's what this person did to me that's the source of my grief. It's what the government has done or isn't doing to me that is the source of my grief. Or you don't understand, it's this woman that God gave me. See, Adam and Eve are the ones that actually started this thing. When God came to Adam in the 3rd chapter of the book of Genesis and says, what have you done? He says, it's this woman that you gave me. He passed the buck to Eve instead of accepting responsibility for his own actions, and then basically tried to make God responsible. It's the woman that you gave to me. In other words, everybody else had a problem, but not himself. It wasn't his fault. I know that many people don't think that this is your problem, that this is your issue, that the source of your grief is what this person has done, the color of your skin, your lack of your finances, your lack of education. It's what this person has done to you. It's the way you were raised up in a dysfunctional family, and yada, yada, yada. And we just blame anybody and everybody but ourselves. And yet it is this self, and it's our self-focus, our self-centeredness, that is the source of all of our grief. You can't change everybody else. We live in a fallen world, and I guarantee you, you are going to be rubbed the wrong way. And as long as your approach to life is, God, straighten this out, straighten this problem out, do this, change these people and everything, you're trying to change everything out here, but you aren't dealing with yourself, then you're just spitting in the wind. It is not going to change a thing. This is why so many people get a divorce, because it was this other person that was my fault, that was my problem. And you go and you get a second or a third or a fourth marriage, and you know what? You have the same problems, and you can't understand, why are all of these people the same? The only common denominator among all of that is yourself. I'm not saying that other people aren't a problem. I'm not saying that we don't have things, but it's not what's without that is destroying you. It's the way you respond to what's with that. You cannot control other people. You can't even control your mate. And all you can do is control yourself, and you can't do that without the power of the Holy Spirit in your life. Man, that's powerful. You know, to introduce this, I would like to play a little DVD that our television department put together. And I tell you, this is about a man who at one time was riding on top of everything, very well off, multiple homes, multiple million-dollar homes. Then the real estate crash came, and he crashed and actually wound up in a storage unit. And I tell you, this changed his life, this teaching on self-centeredness. So watch this and receive this for yourself.
1999, I was actually the mortgage man. I ended up becoming a subprime mortgage team manager. Within a year, I was the leading salesman. I had profit sharing and everything else. In the dot-com boom, I was stoked. I was in position to make a lot of money.
I just knew what money could do. And I know Kurt, and I know his appetite for money, and I know his appetite for excess.
In 2004, I had this mortgage thing going for me so well. I was making 6 figures. I ended up going on my own business. And at that point, I just started looking at real estate in a way where I can cash in, make a lot of money.
And I had a real estate license, so it was very easy for me to bring the real estate business in and do the mortgage at the same time.
I started with my first house. It was a fixer-upper, built it up, leveraged it to another house and to another until I had, at one point in time, close to $3 million in just real estate that I personally had in my name. At that point, I thought I was on the top of the world.
We lived in a very beautiful area in South Florida, Boca Raton, and you know, you had to make money to maintain a lifestyle there.
We did everything we could to make as much as we can.
And because we were making money didn't mean we were saving money. We were just spending what we were making. I noticed that the drinking was starting heavily, and I noticed that going out was a lot, and it just started taking a toll on the marriage. We worked very hard for the first several years to get a blended family, you know, together.
And our kids, as far as what they did, they had to move from house to house to house, change friends, change environments.
My daughter was now getting into a lot of things that I could see was going to be progressively a problem.
My brother and I were very, very close growing up. He was 4 years older than me, and he was my everything. He protected me. He was my stability in the house. I could always talk to him about everything.
And when they needed us, we were not there.
I just kind of lost trust in my parents.
She was a straight A student. She was starting to now skip school and, you know, all those things.
I got raped when I was 15, and after that, I didn't feel like I had anybody to go to. I couldn't talk to my parents because I didn't want to burden them more than what they were already going through.
In 2005, we had a very bad hurricane in the South Florida area, and we were out of electricity for several weeks. Our business literally shut down overnight.
And I became real cocky. And when the business started getting a little squirrely, I, like in Texas Hold'em, went all in. I did all kinds of things that I knew was going to help people make money in this business, and especially myself. In 2006, there was the mortgage implosion. All those subprime mortgage lenders started going belly up.
And the economy then crashed, and we were one of the first areas to get hit hard.
The banks that I had, 9 or 10 banks, they all collapsed and closed their doors the same week. And I had well over $1 million worth of loans with those banks. All my commissions that I drew from were evaporated. I had no money saved. I had already went through everything, and now I had my parents in the game.
Everything that we had and everything that we were lavishing in literally was just pulled from under us overnight.
As far as a relationship with God at that time, it just mattered that I had a Sunday service that I can attend in the Catholic faith.
Because I said, look, I'm going to church on Sundays. You guys can either come with me or not come with me.
I had completed all my sacramental responsibilities as a Catholic. I had never committed a mortal sin, so I knew I was okay, and if I did, I'd go say confession.
I turned away from my faith completely.
So we decided, let's go to Charlotte. Let's make a fresh start of it.
Tried to make it again working as an employee. Having been self-employed, working as an employee was a shot to my ego across the bow, and it was painful.
My husband at that point had gotten a job when we went up there with a mortgage company, and a month later, they let him go.
At this point, when I started losing that career and had to switch back to an old way of doing things that was my fallback in the car business, I felt like I was going backwards.
Kurt now was going into even a steeper depression, and drinking, and now he was just becoming verbally abusive, and it was just not a good situation.
He came to my house for Thanksgiving without his wife, and I found that kind of odd, but I know my brother had lost everything. That's when we spent some time together in my garage, him and his 2 kids, and the Holy Spirit just came over me, and I just started to read his mail and tell him exactly what's going on. And I was terrified because he was my older brother, and I think that was the beginning of something new for him, because he finally, for a moment here, he actually humbled himself and listened to his younger brother, the crazy born again. It hit a soft spot in his heart where he knew that he didn't have any answers, and that he had to deal with his character, and God was going to be his only way out. I embraced him and sent him off back to the Carolinas to his wife, and I said, look, if it's good for you, you can stay here at my house, and I'm just going to minister to you, and we're just going to talk about the Word every day, because that's what you need.
We moved a couple of different times, and the last time that we moved, Kurt, I had developed a husband-for-hire business. Several months later, one night, my daughter had basically attacked me.
We got into it really bad to the point where I think I hit her, and it just got really rough, and I just left.
I got a phone call from the lady that Kurt was working at her house.
I ended up at a customer's home when they offered me a cocktail at the end of the job. I took a cocktail, and then she went to get her kids, said, you can have some more. I refilled.
She called me and said, well, before I called the police, I wanted to call you, but your husband's passed out on my couch. He asked me for one drink, and he drank the whole bottle. I didn't know what to do. Do I go after my daughter, or do I pick up my husband? I chose my husband. So I went to go pick Kurt up, and he was in fact passed out on this woman's couch. So at that point, that was my breaking point.
I recognized I had to do something.
I told him, I said, you need to pack your stuff up, and you need to go find whatever you're looking for, because it's just not here anymore.
I took whatever I could fit in my U-Haul, and I drove down to Florida. On my way to my brother's, when decided to call him about 5 hours away, and knowing I was going to get there well after midnight, and I said, I just can't do this again. I felt like I was going backwards to childhood, and I said, I'll call you in the morning. I pulled in a rest stop just to gather my thoughts. The very next morning, went to the next exit on the highway, came down the road, and lo and behold, this storage facility right here was no more than 2 miles from where I had spent the night, and it ended up becoming my new home.
He showed up to rent a unit. Kurt was, he was separated from his wife and his children. I don't think he knew anybody.
The first couple of nights here was like hide and seek, trying to keep from the cameras around here and trying to make it where no one suspected I was living here. I didn't know I was going to end up living here as long as I did. But I would be on the phone with my brother as much as I could, just trying to keep some kind of sense of sanity about me.
See, I knew what was killing him. Coming out from the same religious background, I know guilt, condemnation, and shame was just eating him up from the inside out.
And he more and more tried to bring encouragement to me to realizing that God was the answer. And I didn't understand his God. I only understood my God, which was the Catholic faith, and I went right to the church locally here.
This is going to work out. He's going to go to Florida, he's going to go to AA, he's going to go to SA, he's going to go to NA, he's going to go to every A program there was, and he was going to be fine.
I have the opportunity to minister the gospel, the truth to him, over and over, all day and all day.
my brother hands me a book called Self-Centeredness, The Root of All Grief by Andrew Womack. I got to a place where I couldn't believe how self-centered I really was and how this book described everything that was going on in my life at that time. I go through this booklet and it leaves me now with more questions than answers. I turn to my brother repeatedly and he guides me to a website, Andrew Womack Ministries, audio teachings. He points me to a place called There. And I click on that. It was my first teaching. And then I realized where I was in my journey with God. I was there.
People cannot live in storage units. It's against the law.
I had actually taken on a rainy day, I said, I'm going to do something good for these people. That bathroom needs to be cleaned up. And I redid it. And wouldn't you know that that little deed turned into, he turned around when I was getting ready to get thrown out and said, I'm going to put you in a house.
It was so cold that winter that I couldn't have him live here. So I offered a house that I had that was vacant.
I have a house, a rental apartment on the beach that needs some painting and sprucing up. I'm trying to get a renter in there and it's not renting, it needs to be cleaned up. You go in there and you live for free. And I moved out of this place, went over there and continued my teachings.
I made it like a prescription, like a doctor. Okay, here's what you need to listen to. I know exactly what you're talking. Go to the website, click over here, go to there, you got to listen to that. Whose righteousness is it?
And I immediately took my iPod and I downloaded all 250-something teachings at that time and just started going over them every single day as I painted and as I did everything I could to just keep myself busy and keep myself with some kind of an income.
He calls me one day, he goes, okay, Scott, I can't take this no more. I come to the revelation that I need to hear this word all day long. I mean, I just need to be on the phone with this. Kurt, he says, I want you to do this full time with me.
He was not able to do that. So I told him, well, if that's the case, I'm gonna have to go to the school. So I prepared myself to go to Colorado.
So while we're talking on the phone, he's clicking through the website and it said, Jacksonville campus now open.
I had to rewind it, I couldn't believe it. And when that thing hit, it's like the whole world came together in a puzzle, like a gear that just fit perfectly. Now I know why I'm in Jacksonville.
And it was the same exit he got off at, months earlier. And God just laid it out for him.
The first time I talked to Kurt Barreto, he told me he was separated from his wife, he had gone through a bunch of stuff, and he was just laying it all on the line and just turning it all over to God.
Within 5 minutes, I had everything figured out on how I was going to attend. I would sit in front of the television and listen and absorb this information, and we would break out into little groups and talk, and we would have praise and worship. People would come up to me, lay hands on me. Wow, it was like filled with the Spirit and with God every day.
The biggest change that I saw with Kurt is the transition from self-dependence to beginning to depend on God.
And God was basically telling me, it's me that's doing all these things.
Now, instead of calling me complaining or calling me with needing help, he's just calling me with testimony after testimony.
At one point, I had spoken to him, and he said, no, my brother Scott introduced me to Andrew Womack, and I'm going to start, I'm going to really work towards that. And I thought, oh, no, he's not Catholic.
My wife would have nothing to do with Jacksonville.
So he starts visiting up there on weekends and calling me for advice. This is the way she's behaving. I don't understand this. I said, Kurt, just don't preach at her, but just say, this is what I'm doing because the Word says this. And just let that living Word go in her ears, because once it's in her head, she's not going to be able to get it out because it's live.
The only one thing I clung to was that anything is possible with God, and that the Spirit doesn't need my help, and that actually I made a pretty bad Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit was a much better job at getting my wife's heart where it needed to be, so long as I just administered the Word. I actually remember waking up in the middle of the night and writing down a little passage, and God said to me these words. He said, You're not going to tell your wife anything. You're going to show her by your living example.
And I could see a softness. I saw his body physique changed. I saw his eyes were different. I saw his temperament was different. That doesn't happen with AA programs and SA programs. I know that because I've been through so many of them with people. I knew that there had been something that had touched his heart, and I saw that in him, and I was happy.
My dad basically put up an offer for me to spend my summer in an RV with him.
And I get permission to have her come with me for the 2 weeks that she's here to school. She goes through one night and she's like taken back. She's almost crying.
The people at Charis there were awesome. They just all had that same, just sense of peace and contentment with life that I had never seen in anybody.
In a 2-week time period, we had more interaction and more love and affection and meaningful dialogue than I've had for our entire 18 years of life. So I had to send her back home.
That's what shocked me more than my husband, was that my daughter changed. And we actually could be in the same room together and love one another and speak to each other. We didn't have that.
My wife still was very reluctant. It was my second year coming up. I had to make a decision. And I said to her, I says, look, I have to stay and do this. This is a life or death thing for me. This is more than just Bible college now.
My mom decided that she didn't want to be alone.
Everything just miraculously came back together. I didn't think you could unscramble eggs. But reality, God can unscramble anything. We've made it through the entire second year of school together.
He was bringing his teachings into the house, which they were biblical teachings, but I was not converting. I am Catholic. I'm going to stay Catholic.
I finally graduate. My wife is ecstatic about that. Everyone comes to the graduation. And then there's the Summer Family Bible Conference.
God really put it in my heart that I should come to Colorado to school.
She got a job transfer from where she was.
I got a promotion right when I got here so I could pay for school.
Everything that I prayed for to get my wife to see the Holy Spirit and to take the baptism of the Holy Spirit came together in 1 week at the Bible conference.
Before we even went to the conference and everything, I said to Kurt, look, do not expect anything. I'm going to listen, I'm supporting you.
She had a Bible that she scribbled through nonstop.
After the first day, I'm like, there might be something here. I kind of like it, I love this speaker and I really like that speaker. But the first 2 days, the praise and worship went on, and just nodding my head, and there was no way my arms are going up. Well, about the third day, I'm hallelujahing around there, and I'm up on the, in front of the stage, and, I pulled Andrew aside one day, and I said, I just want to thank you, and I got very emotional, and I said to him, I just want to thank you because you saved my life, you saved my marriage, you saved my daughter. I go, and you don't know how many people that you touch. You really don't. And his eyes welled up, my eyes welled up, and we're both like, and he said, well, thank you. I said, no, I'm not looking for your thanks. I just want you to know that there are so many people that you are touching that you'll never know. And that's the gift of God, is to touch those you'll never meet.
It was the very last day of the conference. By herself, she stood up, walked up, received baptism of the Holy Spirit, speaking in tongues.
My mom, being Catholic, has never even heard of that. And
we are just been completely blessed in ways beyond understanding. Our marriage has reached a new level, and it's continuing.
I just thought, you know what? It's just a testimony to the way God works, and it's not that I'm not Catholic anymore, and it's not that you're not who you are anymore. It's just that there's so much to learn, and there's so much to teach others, and that's where we are today.
After the Bible conference, my wife was totally elated, plugged into conferences, and in the secular world, we were a tag team of dealership presentations, and we work together. And
you know, we're going to have our traveling ministry, and I want so much to go to school.
We're taking the godfollowersministries.com to the level where we'll be installing discipleship evangelism, the need for evangelism, everything to do with bringing God's word, the true gospel, to where people can get enough information to become deeply rooted with the word and bear much fruit.
I know there's a lot of people that together my husband and I can touch, you know, to make a difference.
From a Florida mansion to a storage unit, from a beach house to a motor home, Kurt Barreto learned that no matter where he found himself, God stood at the door of his heart, knocking. Now that he's opened that door through Andrew Wommack Ministries and Charis Bible College, the entire Barreto family is enjoying a feast of blessing and abundance.
Isn't that a powerful testimony? I tell you what, we are our own biggest problem. And Kurt and Lisa have learned that. You know, they are in our school in Jacksonville, Florida, and their daughter is right here in our Colorado school. And I've got to talk to her, and I tell you, it's just a transformed life. And regardless of how bad your situation is, you may think it's the housing market, it's this, it's that causes all the problem, but it was our self-indulgence, our own self-centeredness, and I think that this is going to be a major, major revelation to you that could change your life. I'd encourage you to call or write in today. We're giving away a free book entitled Self-Centeredness, the Source of All Grief. If you'll listen to our announcer, he'll give you the information, and please call or write today.
Andrew's complete teaching titled Self-Centeredness, the Source of All Grief is available in a 56-page booklet. You can get your first copy of the booklet free of charge when you go to our website. If you'd like additional copies for yourself and others, they're available for a gift of $2 each. Go to awmi.net and click on today's TV offer to see the options. The story you saw in today's program is included along with 5 additional testimonies on the brand new Financial Breakthroughs DVD. This DVD includes 6 true stories that could change your financial future and help you experience the freedom of turning your finances over to God. It's available for a gift of any amount when you contact us. You can use your credit card to order resources through our website. Go to awmi.net to see the options. While on our website, you can discover more product details and download free additional resources. Or you can order through our helpline Monday through Friday from 4:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Our helpline number is 719-635-1111. If the lines are busy, you can visit our website where you can order ministry materials 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at awmi.net. To write us, use the address on your screen. We appreciate your generosity and hope to hear from you today.